Abu. Thanks for sharing, but Abu.
Yes, sir. Good evening.
Come to the microphone. You can hear me? Let me see.
Yes, sir. I can hear you. I can hear you.
Grace and peace. What do you've been around from the beginning. You know Sister E, you know, well, I'm not sure you know Brother Brown. He's kind of new on the scene, but you know, a lot of people in here know you, and you know a lot of people in here. You're part of the community. How do you see everything?
Well, I mean, it's a
including the
complex
information,
subject.
because I saw you make a comment about Dante, including the information, because a lot of people have the problem with the amount of information that's coming out here and the size of the movement that's growing and sources and being vetted and all of that other stuff.
Mm-hmm. I mean, we can discuss that, what I had written on your video earlier. I figured I'd just come on in case there was, an ability to interact directly. So, and good evening to the rest of the panel.
Share what you said about sources and how and sources being critiqued. You could share that. That's okay.
Okay. What I was attempting to convey was that I feel that in terms of the discussion over Dante's sources, it seems like the discussion never really gets off the ground. So here's how I perceive it. And as I wrote before, people can correct me if I'm wrong. But the way I understand it is that Nefertiti devoted nearly 4 hours to attempting to, obviously she didn't look at everything that Dante's put forward, but she looked at stuff that he considered significant. And then more recently, Faithful in 93 devoted about 4 hours to the subject as well, not looking at everything, but attempting to look at what he has considered particularly significant. And what my understanding is that very little of Nefertiti's 4-hour video was ever dealt with. And as far as Faithful in 93, while I understand it was very recent, so I would understand people saying, well, people will address it when time permits. It seems that what Dante's response was, and with all due respect to Dante, I don't intend this disrespectfully, but his response seemed to be well, Faithful's a loser. He's not worth any more attention. So I'm not going to pay any attention to that. But then he also has started to get on this thing of redirecting attention to this claim that he's, associated with some quote unquote Mexican Israelite camp. Yes. And it seems like a conversation.
Orthodox Moor in here still, or he left? I'm sorry, go ahead. No, I was going to say with that. Go ahead.
Forgive me. I was going to say with that sort of a pattern, it seems like discussion on the sources can't even get started, where even when people are devoting hours to attempting, he's accusing me of lying. Just to be clear, the video I'm referring to is still up. It's a video from May 15th of 2020.
Hold on, let me write that. From Nefertiti with the Judah?
Well, what I'm saying is the video that she put out that was nearly 4 hours, that video is still up. I don't know. He may be referring to a different video, but it's a video that came out. The exact date is May 15th of 2020. And that video is definitely still up. Okay. But what I'm saying is that if certain people are attempting to devote hours to looking at it, at least the sources that he has described as particularly significant, and then those videos are largely ignored, it seems like the discussion isn't really going to get off the ground. And so, and then on top of that, I mean, I haven't looked deeply at the sources, but I think there's also methodological questions, both with, I've attempted to discuss the 400-year prophecy in the past, and I'm not bringing that up in any sort of hostile way, and then same thing with the sources here. I see a parallel insofar that I think there's methodological questions that should be answered first, vis-a-vis the sources. On
how he go about getting the sources that he posts?
Well, no. It doesn't even have to entail hostility to the sources. The thing is, because I know people say, well, all his sources are pseudo. I would never say that. I don't think people have to be hostile to his sources, but I think there's a question of how we interpret them, what sort of prism we're looking at them through, right? So, for example, take, for example, the question, I think this is a central question to the sources that he marshals to try to identify the Israelites. I think a central question is going to be how we define Israelite in the first place, right? Because there are different people who identify as Israelites who have very different, and by the way, greetings to Orthodox Moor, great respect for that gentleman. There are different people with very different definitions of Israelite out there, right? There are some who accept conversion. There are some who reject it. There are some who believe it is strictly restricted to patrilineal descent. There's others who feel that any line of descent is sufficient. Now, these are relevant because in order to assess Dante's argument, I would say that we need to know what his definition of Israelite is. You understand? Because, like, for example, we can point to a source that for example, describes practitioners of a form of Judaism in a certain region, like a part of West Africa. But practitioner of Judaism doesn't necessarily fit everyone's definition of Israelite. It might meet some people's definition, but it might not meet others. So I'm just using that as an example to say that to begin to assess the sources that he's bringing and the argument that he seems to be attempting to make, I think we first need to understand what sort of definition of Israelite are we running with. Some people have much more open-ended definitions of Israelite, while others have very strict definitions.
All right, so we should bring him. So you feel he just need to come on and just bring some clarity? Are you alarmed at the amount of information that he's putting out? And
No.
I'm going to ask you another important question, because, like I said, Cherry was on here the other day, and she said, Teo Ministries, Ron Dalton, Benaiah Israel, they have been thoroughly debunked. And Dante.
Well, no,
Can you say amen to that?
No, I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say that because look, I think everyone is bringing a myriad of very complex arguments, and I think a lot of these discussions are only scratching the surface of very small topics.
Okay.
Like, for example, I know there was a lot of bad blood over the pews thing, but I certainly never claimed that if we somehow establish something on the pews that eliminates every other argument. That was never my position, for example. And I'm just using that as an example as well. So no, I don't think every argument has ever been refuted. I mean, these gentlemen are coming up with new arguments every day.
Who real? Matter of fact, hold on, Abu. Orthodox Moor, you hit me the email when I was getting ready to get on. Share some of what I'm not sure what you want to share, but speak to what Abu is saying right here before. Don't even get on the other stuff you hit me the email about. Speak to some of what Abu is saying, if you care to.
Real quick, I do want to make something very clear about the faithful to God stuff, just so people don't get the wrong idea about the claims being made or any claims I'm making about his affiliation with any Hispanic and American groups. I'm not saying that he has or ever was a part of the group Ancient Watchmen. The claim that I'm making and what's put forth in my videos is the fact that I had a conversation with Faithful to God that Abu actually helped set up in a back chat in Facebook or whatnot, and we talked for about 2-3 hours. And at one point, 93 showed up as well, and in that conversation, I talked to him about this group Ancient Watchmen because I've known about them, I've interacted with them, etc. I know that they have different beliefs, and so I asked him if he had any interest in going at them as well, like he goes at Dante, etc. And he said no. And he said no based upon the fact that he only goes at Israelites for 2 reasons. If they make nationality a salvation issue, and if they say you have to accept their claim of being Israel to be in right standing with God. So I found that to be curious because Dante doesn't make either claim, and he said so clearly. And he's asked Faithful to produce proof of such.
And all right, and hold on a minute. I think this part of the conversation we may have to bring on for another night, because this gets back to what I was saying, Sister E, and so many other people. And people's like, listen, Berean, that's not really your fight. I'm going to ask both of y'all. I'm going to ask both of you. As a matter of fact, I'm going to ask everybody in the comment section. Do y'all think certain individuals, I can't even say the urban apologetic community, because like I said, out of 30, 40 urban apologists, it's only 4 or 5 people we're talking about. Do you think this is part of the game? Constantly hearing people say one thing, constantly saying Dante teaches A, B, C, D, Sister E believes E, F, and G, Teo teaches this, and turning around and still GMSing them and still mixing it up. You think that's been deliberately happening from the few people that's been speaking against the movement?
Obviously that's been happening, because it's not hard to go on neutral platforms and have neutral conversations. As a matter of fact, I do this all the time on Debate Talk View, where I bring Christians on. As a matter of fact, Vocab Malone will tell you, he will tell you that I have a lot of integrity and that I've moderated debates for him. He asked me to moderate conversations and debates for him on that platform because even as an Israelite, I call things down the middle. So Sister Cherry's been invited to that platform. Sister Salam's been invited to that platform.
No, I think
real quick, Faithful was going to go on that platform with me and Abu. But until I made these recent videos asking very sincere and honest and relevant questions, he refused to come on, and has not rebutted any of the information in those videos asking the questions. He's just
Abu, what would you say to that before I give it to Sister E? I want to give Sister E because these charges came up and I always attempted to overlook it. I'm like, no, that's because I used to be an urban apologist. No, that's not what it is. That's not what it is. But she's been hearing this for some years, so I want to give it to her. But Abu, what would you say to that? Do you think people, Alton, in your Holy Ghost mind, do you think people that has been putting videos out there have still, after hearing people come specifically on this platform, share certain things and then turn around and still lump them together with Captain Tazaria, lump them together with General Yahan?
I'll say this.
Abu?
Yeah, I would say that, and this is when I appeared on Orthodox Moor show, the one time I appeared, I brought this up. I think on both sides, there is this tendency to lump people together or to punish people for something that somebody else did or said. So, and it's coming from both ends. People are pointing their fingers at each other. You did this or you guys do this. And it's like punishing one person for something that somebody else did, And there's
like
a lot of that going on.
Me with Catholics or somebody else with Catholics that's not Roman Catholic.
Yeah, or anything. Yeah, exactly. Or cursing or whatever it is. One person's flaws are like heaped onto another. And that goes in both directions, definitely. There's definitely people on the non-Israelite side, who are doing that to the Israelite side, and I think it's vice versa.
Orthodox Moor, before I give it to Sister E. So you agree with that? So we got to make an effort on both sides if we really want conversation. Mm-hmm. Even if people don't believe that they're Israel, lumping them together, I think they're doing themselves a disservice because people are gonna. Jason Brown, say what you want. People are gonna slowly peep it. Oh, I see. They heard Dante say such and such. They looked at this statement, then they're still turning around saying it's a skin doctrine. They're still turning around doing this and that. Abu says on both sides. Orthodox Moor, you've been around from the beginning. Before I give it to Steve, you see the same thing?
Yeah,
or you see it heavier on one side than the other?
No, I first of all, I think both sides can be held accountable, and I think there's things that both sides can work on in terms of dealing with claims being made or whatnot. But again, I think the conversation that Abu just referenced, where me and him sat down on the debate talk few and went and addressed arguments on both sides of the pews and just walked through them, dealt with the scholarship, no emotion. We were able to bring on my brother Anonymous Hebrew, who also went down to the church, saw the pews, touched the pews, took pictures of the pews and whatnot. We were able to have a really, really good, deep, thorough conversation. Abu was able to recognize where he was actually not addressing certain cultural aspects of the situation. Right? And so we were able to recognize things on both sides.
What's a proper way to attempt to vet these sources? I said Dante was like the Dr. Ben. He's just dropping so much information so fast. He knows it's not enough people. I can't say that, but there's not enough people in Christian community, UA community that speaks against it, that claim that they want to disprove or semi-urban apologists. So however you want to look at it, there's not enough people. He knows there's not enough people. Everything can't get vetted. What's a proper way to go about it, you two? What the two of y'all think is, because you're both of y'all in the community and both of y'all have been respectful. What's a proper way about going about vetting these sources and putting the sources on the table and discussing the sources?
Could I comment on that?
Yeah, that's sure. Yeah.
What I would say is probably the way to go through it is to discuss them piecemeal. Like, one thing that I've sensed is that some people will attempt to discuss a fragment of his overall array, and the reply from others is, well, you didn't deal with the whole thing, as if to imply that, the contribution that they made is somehow worthless. I think, that's why I brought up Nephronidi and Faithful and 93. I mean, I think it's fine to say that, the contributions they made have not addressed everything. That's perfectly all right. But the thing is, if someone wants to have a serious conversation on it, then it obviously would have to happen in stages like that.
Look
so
at
to wave off one stage because it didn't deal with everything seems improper.
Look at the screen, Abu. Tell me what you say about that. Is that one step?
I mean, that's an idea. If Dante will have me, sure. But it's not even. No, keep in mind, I'm not hostile to any of these sources. What I would say is that for me, my question is more one of interpretation and methodology. That's what I was trying to convey earlier.
Okay.
Like, for example, I mean, I'll give a very soft example.
Please.
Lately, people have been appealing even to the existence of quote unquote Black Jews in the 19th century, right? Late 19th century. And with that in mind, why not go early 20th century? Like, if someone said, well, look at the commandment keepers. Here you have people who clearly fit the standard definition of quote unquote black, and they're clearly practicing a form of Judaism. If someone said that, there's no disputing that they exist. The question would be about interpreting what we're appealing to, and what it is that we're attempting to convey by appealing to such.
All right, look at the. All right. And I want to ask y'all a question. Can the two of y'all, if we start dealing separately on this channel, separately with the sources, taking our time one by one, are y'all two willing to come on and deal with that? And then I want Orthodox Moor to read Dante's comment right here, and then I'm gonna give it. Then I'm gonna get back on with Sister E and on Brown. Go ahead.
Because I got a question to Abu before you take him out.
Before he leave? Okay, all right. Okay. All right, hold on. But Orthodox Moor, do me a favor, read Dante. Thank you, man, in the super chat. Berean teacher, $ Berean teacher cash app. We appreciate the support and everything. Orthodox Moor, you got the floor.
Okay, notice how Abu changed the vibe. Black people were coming together, and what did Abu do? Pay attention when people that don't look like us want to stir division among us. And to that, I say this. I think Dante Fortson actually brought out a really legitimate reason for why he won't talk to Abu. But one of the reasons why I do talk to Abu is it's really easy. So Abu does two things, right? He removes the emotion from the situation by saying, I don't care if you guys are nationally Israel or not. That doesn't bother me at all if you are or not, if you make the claim. Two, he doesn't make it like he doesn't put anybody in hell, right? He says he leaves that up to the sovereignty of God. I respect that, right? He doesn't put anybody in hell, right? And then the thing he focuses on is methodology, right? And I think that's the thing.
Methodology is important. Listen to what he's saying.
I think it's very important that we can sit down on both sides and have a calm conversation as to what methodology are we using to look at this information, because 9 times out of 10, that's why we're coming up with different answers on stuff, right? So if we can actually calmly come to the table and speak on how are we looking at this stuff and what methods are we using and whatnot, we can actually have a clear conversation with each other and understand why we're talking past each other sometimes.
They're very good. Listen, if the two of y'all are willing, I'm going to get some other people that's level-headed. Y'all are very level-headed, and we're going to deal with the source individually. We were trying to do it, and on this show, I often move fast, but we'll take pieces, and like you said, piecemeal. We'll take pieces and we'll work with it specifically what the community will say. If everybody got some things, all right, Dante dropped this, somebody else dropped this, and we're going to bring it. We're going to bring it out and we'll spend an hour or two discussing one thing, not jumping from subject to subject. Before they leave, Sister E, thank you so much for coming on, Abu and Orthodox Moor. Sister E, before they leave, you had something for Abu?
I wanted to say this. The whole problem with Abu and his approach, and maybe I'm wrong, and tell me if I'm wrong, Abu. It came off as if you're correcting us to show us how to research. When everybody up here is just as intelligent, Dante is a very intelligent man. And when you come
and shout out to him, this is
Teo are very intelligent men. When you come at an intelligent man, like you're looking at it wrong, and let me show you how, that's asinine. That you can't come to a person like that. I don't know if you intentionally don't do it, but it comes off as that. So when you come to people as if they are interpreting the information wrong, let me show them. Off the top, guards are there, and people will not want to receive it because you have to come to the realization you might be wrong and be at peace with it. We might be wrong, but it's all in how you come at a person. Because again, that's all I heard from you, Abu, and tell me if I'm wrong, is, you brought up the fact of, I guess the live that Faithful of God and 93, whatever the guy's name is, did the live about his information. That was totally disrespectful and wrong because say it again. Disrespectful. It was very disrespectful and wrong because at the beginning, Dante said at the very beginning, there's so much information out there. I need curators to come and vet out the information. They went in, snuck, and found some information and said, oh, we found some holes. I'm going to show the world what type of holes we found. How am I supposed to build with someone when their goal is to tear me down?
I think that was for you. I think
so. That's my whole point. It's your approach, and you're going to have to fix that. If you want to talk and have these real dialogues with us, coming at us like we ain't got it together, and you're going to show us how to do something, you're not going to be received by the community, period.
All right, now, Abu, you want to say something on that?
Sure.
Because I'm gonna touch on that. Abu been respectful, but I'm gonna touch on that in general and some stuff with with the whole God Timmy and everything. And I said on my live earlier when Sister Cherry could jump on. Of course, I got a lot of emails behind that. But one thing we're not gonna have, because we have so much of that out there with everybody. Go ahead, Abu. Then I'll discuss that. Go ahead.
What I would say is, and first off, it's nice to be on the same panel with Sister E. This is more than a year in the making. I certainly would never deny anyone's intelligence, nor would I ever claim that I'm more intelligent than any of the gentlemen that I've responded to. However, I do think it's fair to attempt to raise methodological points if one feels that they haven't been brought to the fore. And I think that's a two-way street. She said, I have to take into account that I could be wrong. Absolutely. I'm very fallible. And I think on any of the subjects that I've touched on, I've admitted every step of the way I could be wrong. Like Dante brought up earlier that I've said that there's no language on the pews, which is sort of a minority position compared to much else of what's out there. And I've always said I could be wrong. That's very much my fallible conclusion based on a very limited amount of information. So yes, Sister E is absolutely right that I could be wrong, but I don't, where I would respectfully disagree with her, I don't think it's disrespectful to attempt to bring some clarity to a conversation by trying to focus on a key premise or a key methodological question. And I don't think that it's just me. I think it would be very fair for people to do that with me as well. Like if I'm putting forth an argument, someone could say, here's what you've missed. Here's what Abu has not considered. Here's a question that he needs to answer if he's going to go down this road. I would not be offended in the least if they did that, I've had conversations like that with Moore, for example, where he's laid out things that he feels I haven't considered, things I've missed, and I don't consider that disrespectful in the least. I hope that's clear.
All right, thank you. I'm sorry, go ahead, Sister E.
So nobody's saying about bringing about methodologies to the table to look at information and data. That's the world we live in. But when you come at the point of my point was not the methodology, it's the approach. Again, you said the word but. I work in corporate America. They always taught you if you start a sentence with but, I'm finna shut down because I'm not going to want to hear what you got to say. When you said but, that opened up the entry of, yeah, you said what you said, but you might be wrong. You have to be very mindful of the words and how you say things. And that's my whole point. I don't care about that. At the end of the day, if the information, I want the good information and kick out the bad. I deal in information technology. Let's pull out the bad and keep the good. I don't have a problem with that. But when you come at me and you make it seem as if, yeah, I understand your point, but right there, I'm shutting down.
All right, Jimmy. All right, we're gonna. I appreciate having you on the board. I appreciate having you on Orthodox Moor. We're gonna do something. Far as we're gonna do something with that. Far as looking at sources and taking our time, I'll take the responsibility to bring certain people on. Y'all tell me. Definitely, I'd like Orthodox Moor on. Definitely, I'd like Abu on. And y'all tell me how y'all feel about different things. If y'all want to deal with Faithful to God, I noticed there's some people that's up in the air with certain things about Faithful to God.